A cosmic Justice League. A Justice League who is primarily focused on outer space. There was a Justice League like this a couple of years ago in Justice League Odyssey that lasted for a little while, but it's not the most memorable team out there. I wanted to make my own version of a Cosmic Justice League, and to take it a step further, I'm also delivering you a story with it. Plus, I do have a video about DC's version of a Guardians of the Galaxy, so if you want to just look at characters who could belong in some sort of space team, you can check out that video. This video is going to have a not-so-traditional team with a not-so-traditional story. We have Supergirl, Starfire, Green Lantern, Blue Beetle, Atom, either Ray Palmer or Ryan Choi, doesn't matter. For myself, though, I'm going with Ryan Choi. Cyborg, Firestorm, Miss Martian instead of Martian Manhunter, Mr. Terrific, and Batwing. So that might seem like an odd jumble of characters, but this is the story I wrote out and why these characters are part of this team. This is in a different world, a different dimension, where I kind of combined two ideas of Necron and Deceased. When Necron comes to Earth, it is everything you saw that happened in the Blackest Night event, except 10 times worse. On his way to Earth, Necron destroyed multiple homeworlds with civilizations, whether their entire civilizations are completely gone, or they just suffered some of his wrath. That is a wrath that those civilizations will never forget, and they will take a long time to recover from. He also, on his way to Earth, destroys 99%, if not more, of all Lantern Corps. He does not discriminate just to green. He pretty much gets rid of every single color and all of its wielders, including the Guardians of the Universe. At Earth, not only is it so bad that humans are being turned into servants of Necron, or simply just the living undead, 95-96% of the superhumans on Earth, heroes and villains, are getting killed off. The Justice League comes together and finds a way in the most dire of moments to actually defeat Necron, in the assurance that he will completely die and he will never rise again. The sacrifice is of the lives of every single Justice League member. Batman, Superman, Wonder Woman, both Green Lanterns, Hal and John, Martian, Aquaman, any big-time player, if they haven't already died, they die in the moment of actually discovering how to defeat Necron once and for all. So with that being said, this roster is simply made up of lucky characters who happen to survive the war against Necron. At this point, Earth is just a pool of the undead, circulating with regular people who have been turned into zombies or some form of deceased. You also have a few superheroes and villains who roam the Earth as a form of zombie as well. This roster of heroes needs to flee Earth because there's no viable way of living there anymore, and they retreat into the Watchtower and actually move the Watchtower to Titan, a moon of Saturn's. Essentially, this team thinks that the sacrifices made on Earth, from citizens and civilians to the greatest heroes of all time, cannot be in vain. They need to do something to honor their sacrifice. A lot of this team is still people who are human or have a huge devotion and love for Earth. What they will do is terraform this planet to honor humanity and almost start a new version of Earth, if you will, considering it has some of the most similarities to an Earth-based structure. They understand that terraforming Titan, even with some of the technology they have, they might have an easier road at it, but it is still going to take a long time to get to where they want to be, and they all realize that it might take the rest of their lives to finally get Titan up and running to an Earth-type standard. Each one of these characters would have a mini-series of maybe 1 or 2 issues, and it would basically showcase what each of these characters were doing during this world's version of the Darkest Night event, who they fought alongside, what their particular job was part of this war, watching some of their friends and family die at the hand of Necron or other already turned people. Their emotional response to all of this trauma, the consequences they had to endure, most of all, how all of what has transpired has turned them into different characters, and how you see some of these characters act differently, speak differently, think differently. Even though they beat Necron in the end, you don't go through a form of failure that they all went through and just skip by through life like that never happened. Their entire lives are changed. They now have to rebuild a new home on a new planet. Some will feel like they shouldn't be here. Some will feel like they didn't do enough. So this team will split into pairs of 2. There will be essentially 5 small teams who go around and dedicate themselves to finding or doing something that will help their job in terraforming Titan a little easier. There's a lot of intelligent people on this team, but Mr. Terrific and Cyborg are going to be the 2 characters stationed on Titan, or at the very least on the Watchtower, trying to understand the planetology of Titan. Then we have Miss Martian and Adam Ryan Choi, who will journey off together to Mars. And the 2 biggest things they have to do in this situation is humanity did have a base on Mars at this point, and they need to go through all of their documents, technology, seeing if there's anything that they've discovered about terraforming Mars, and if they could use that in their research for Titan. They also try to find very ancient technology from the Martians on the surface or underneath the surface of Mars to see if there is in any way any type of preserved resources they could use. There could be a lot of very interesting conversation dynamics here, considering that Miss Martian in this particular timeline has now seen the fall of her own people and the fall of her people that she has inherited with humanity, and how this is affecting her. Also, the fact that she is biologically a white Martian, and she gets this idea of, does chaos and war follow me wherever I go? Am I destined to an aggressive, bleak, dark future at all times? Then we have Starfire and Supergirl. These are 2 characters that I genuinely believe should have more of a friendship together, and them traveling together will do just that. They have to leave the Sol system and go to Tamarin. Starfire needs to ask her people for assistance on helping them regrow a new life on Titan. Usually they'd be in a situation where Tamarin would definitely say yes and offer any kind of support they could, but they are currently unluckily not in that situation. What Starfire and Supergirl would learn is that with the destruction of Necron also came, of course, the sacrifice of the main Justice League 7, along with a vast majority of other metahumans on Earth who are super, super powerful. With that in mind, some very heavy-hitting space villains, cosmic villains, now have nothing to fear in doing what they want to do to the rest of the universe. They also don't have to worry about the defenses that the Green Lantern Corps might oppose them with. The epicenter of the universe is gone. Earth has fallen. The mightiest metahumans in the universe are no more. So an attack on Tamarin is exactly what is going to happen. They are going to be confronted by Despero. Supergirl and Starfire have to take time away from the rest of the team to try and help Tamarin survive an assault from Despero, and if they can successfully do it, Tamarin will offer any type of help or resources that they need for their new home in Titan. Now, another couple of characters that are going to have to leave the Sol system for a time being as well is Blue Beetle, who is Jaime Reyes, and Green Lantern, who in this story is going to be Jessica Cruz. Their goal is another 2 things. They need to search out any possible lantern-wielding member out in the universe who might still be alive. They also need to reach out to the Reach. This is a little bit of a harder decision to make, considering the Reach is not the nicest of civilizations out there. They're literally conquerors themselves. With the epicenter of the universe gone, with the Green Lantern Corps gone, they're capable of running rampant on anything they want to do as well. They won't like the fact that Jaime Reyes has one of their scarabs, and being confronted by a Green Lantern, no matter who it might be, Hal, John, Jessica, they're not going to like her. Considering the Reach are natural conquerors, who better than them to have technology that would help this Justice League terraform Titan in their perfect image? They are going to have one of the hardest decisions that they're going to have to navigate. What you will end up discovering in this story is that the Reach have now spent time ever since Earth has been destroyed and the Green Lantern Corps is all but gone. They are going to move out into the rest of the universe trying to find any lantern wielder themselves, and they will not discriminate to Green Lanterns. They will look for other colors. At this time, when they approach the Reach, they will already have a couple of lanterns of all colors who are in captivity or have even already been killed. They are trying to exterminate technically their race, their culture, as much as they possibly can. I even have an idea that a guardian of the universe who is left very, very, very weak after Necron is also captive by the Reach, and they're torturing him for information on, well, the universe, because they have secrets that no one else will know of. The Reach will take Jessica Cruz captive, and they will essentially say to Blue Beetle, you have to find these members and bring them in alive to us so that we can do what we want with them. We're rounding out the final members of the Lanterns. If you can do that, we will look past any gripe that we might have with you or your people, and we will give you the technology that you so desire to rebuild a homeworld. This is really hard because you're in a lose-lose situation. If you don't go along with this, you don't get the technology or the help you need, and if you do go along with it, you're almost putting these lanterns to their death sentence. One of these characters that Blue Beetle would need to find is actually Carol Ferris, or Star Sapphire, who is still alive. For the last two characters of this team, we have Batwing and Firestorm. They might get the most unluckiest destinations of the group. They actually have to return to Earth. Their job is to go to somewhat preserved company sites that probably aren't really well preserved in the first place, and other hidden bases around the world to also find different technology that they might need. Technology in this story is basically oil. They need to scrub through different Star Labs locations, LexCorp, Wayne Industries, Ted Cord Industries, even Amertech. Whatever they can find, they will take and bring back to Cyborg and Mr. Terrific to essentially work their magic. Two very big and important places they're going to have to look through, one being the Fortress of Solitude for some very hidden and unique alien technology that might help them in the long run. Getting into the Fortress of Solitude is going to be a little easier said than done. Also, the fact that when they are on Earth, they're probably gonna not just have to fight their way through hordes of zombies, they're also going to have to fight through some metahumans who have been turned into zombies. That's not going to be very easy. Heading into the Batcave. When they're in there looking through Bruce Wayne's old files, any type of tech or information that might help them, they discover that somebody is living in the Batcave. Somebody else who isn't dead. This is where they actually discover Tim Drake is still alive. Him and Batwing are the only two survivors of the entire Bat family. It has been a couple of months since the ending of Necron and the entire planet. So it will be a huge shock for Batwing to see Tim Drake is alive, even for Firestorm to see Tim is alive. Batwing and Firestorm will get to leave with any type of resource that they might think helps. Tim Drake, however, is not going to go. There are still fractured satellites that orbit Earth, and Tim Drake claims that he has heard some sort of static interference that almost sounds like Morse code coming through transmissions, and he's been trying to decode it over the past couple of months to see if there are anyone that are still alive on Earth. And mainly he's hearing two transmissions, one coming from around Atlantis and another coming from around Themyscira. In choosing to stay, Batwing and Firestorm give Tim Drake a comms device that will allow him to contact him no matter where and when. If he needs their help, they will pick him up and bring him to the Watchtower or Titan. So after all that is said and done, Firestorm, Batwing, Miss Martian, and Adam would all return, giving Mr. Terrific and Cyborg all they need, but they would all realize that Blue Beetle, Green Lantern, and Supergirl Starfire have not returned yet, and they're wondering what has been taking them so long. This is where you would discover Despero would unfortunately defeat Supergirl Starfire and the Tamaranians, and he would indeed move on their planet, mind controlling a huge chunk of their population. Blue Beetle, Jessica Cruz, and Carol Ferris would somewhat succeed in their plan of getting the technology they need and also refraining from helping the Reach kill all lanterns. In the betrayal of the deal between the Reach and Jaime Reyes, they would decide, screw this kid, we're sending a couple of ships, maybe a small fleet, over to their solar system to be rid of all of them. Now, not only does this Justice League have to deal with the fact that they lost their entire home and loved ones to Necron, they also have to deal with Despero taking over the Tamaranians and potentially moving on them, with the Reach sending forces to their position. So I'm gonna leave it there. We can call this part 1 of my Cosmic Justice League storyline. If this video does well, if you guys want me to continue this, I definitely can. I have ideas for a part 2. There would even be a mini-series storyline, if you will, on what happens to Tim Drake and the story he gets up to on this undead Earth. The Reach and Despero would be something that even Justice League of 10 would have a very hard time stopping. But more importantly than that, it could leave Titan decimated to the point where there is no point on terraforming that moon anymore. So guys, let me know in the comments below what you thought of the story and if you are interested in a continuation. But that is all I have for you on this one, and until next time, I will talk to you all very soon.